you belong in the room. And the thing is, and there is a room not only that you belong in, but that there's a room that you will create, that other people belong in. So I give you permission to be audacious in that way. Whatever you've been thinking about or sitting with, you get to accomplish your dreams.
You are now listening to The Gradient Radio, an open space to converse about creativity with creatives. And I am your host, Antonio Knoxx. And today we have a special guest. Today, our guest doesn't need a seat at your table. She's building one. The strategist, Quita.
Hello. Wow, that was great. I love that.
Thank you. How are you?
I am well.
That's good. Thank you for taking your time to be a part of this. I know you're a busy person, so it's great to see you here and everyone having the time to get to know you. Yeah. So for those people who may not know who you are, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name is Quita. I'm like the pure sign of the multi-hyphenate. So I've done all the creative jobs, photographer, video, I've just went down the list. But right now I assist in corporate America. I help bosses build big marketing budgets. So I oversee millions and millions of dollars in ad management and the creative and everything that goes along with it. So that's like my hat to society.
So how did you get your start?
When I graduated college, I just kind of needed something to do because I went to college for criminal justice, and I was like, that's not going to work. However, I probably still would go do border control if I ever had to like do a career shift. So I started out like a really poor photographer, and I just kind of picked up anything that felt like the next thing. And then YouTube, and then I would go over here and I'm going to do social media. And it just kind of was a matriculation. And someone took a chance and was like, hey, I need your help. You're really creative. And I'm like, am I? And that's, it's been kind of a series. So it's been, I would say it's been the last 10 years, the last decade, it has been devoted to this.
Yeah. So what would you say that you've learned within like the last decade? Like what is one of the first things that come to your mind?
Yeah, that being a perfectionist sucks. Like I hate it so much. I hate it for other people. It doesn't work for me. It's not my thing. And when I see other people put that hat on, I'm like, that's the worst thing you ever could do to your success or your dream is try to make it perfect. It's the hat that I carry. It's the mountain that I live on. So yeah. Yeah. So you spoke about, helping people essentially like boss up in a way, within like their organizations. What does it mean to be a boss? Well, I mean, it could mean another thing. It usually means like having a level of freedom and control over, like you want to make sure that you have freedom and control of your own pathway. That could be a lot of things. It could be in your business, over your finances, like to really own your space, to own what you do. It's important, and that's what it looks like to be a boss. Typically, for most people, they have the desire to do that, but not the tools. So helping people understand what it looks like to scale and to strategy and like what it really looks like to build out what do bosses do. And a lot of times it's what we see as a boss, and none of us not really knowing how to get to that level. Like how do I, like, what's the inside secret to like, how do they get over there? Like I know what a boss looks like or the type and cast of it, but like what's the secret to the secret that's going to get me there? And that's usually where I'm helping people. Like they know what they want, they know where they want to be, but how do I get there? And it's the secret that everybody deserves to have access to.
Yeah. So where did you obtain all of this wealth of knowledge?
Definitely. I am an innate marketer. Like it's my gifting. Like I would definitely say like ideating. It's definitely gift. It's definitely gift. But also then like skills. So like, I sat on YouTube. I sat on, I listen. I read, I watch everything. I analyze everything. And the thing is, and I used my time so I went to like a conference this weekend and I'm like, oh, this is strategic marketing. I'm like, oh, okay. At what time did this person walk out? At what time did I'm writing a note? Because everything is marketing. I look through a marketing lens. So it's like the strategy behind it or the lack thereof is usually the loudest thing. So the main thing is like if I want to study something, I'm looking at a picturesque of success and looking at the methodology that led to it. So instead of looking at my competitor, I'm looking at like ESPN, like what is their methodology to how they post their commercials, or I'm looking at Nike. I don't sell what Nike sells or I don't sell what ESPN sells or Apple, but they have a certain methodology to the way they do things, and I study it heavily. For sure.
I definitely look at some of the biggest people in industries, not like a specific industry, but like just industries. And I've always looked at like the Disneys of the world, the Apples of the world, the Nikes of the world, especially like how they tell stories for their products. And, I showed you the app earlier and you were speaking about story. Like, what is it about story that gets people wanting to be a part of product?
So you have to think about it like this. So I always say people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. So especially in this generation. So it's like we care, like there has to be some type of social and emotional connection. So the minute that you can bring an emotion out of me or a feeling, like number one, it's easier to sell to me. Like, you know what I mean? Clearly. But there should be something that I want to align myself, especially if you want what I consider LTVs, which are like longevity with your customers and your clients. It's like to have longevity with me, I have to have some type of social and emotional buy-in. And for some people, like the Apple's word, that's status. There's a certain status that comes with like having an iPhone. Or like, a Louis bag, like there's a status with that. For some people, it is the innate causes behind that, but there has to be a reason why I want to align with you. And that's where the story comes in for the best of the best. Like I'm saying at the Ritz because there's a certain air of the story of the Ritz and I want to align with that. So when you tell your stories, you need to figure out what do people or my audience or my customer or who this is for, what do they want to align with and how do I build that into the story?
Yeah. So what is the story behind Bossology?
So the story behind Bossology is it's really innate. Like I saw the gap, you know what I mean? Like I've had the opportunity to serve under, Black-owned $1 million businesses and ones that are white-owned. And I saw that there was a secret that everybody really wanted to get into. Like everybody wants to know, like, how do I do this? You know what I mean? Like, I know I get an email every single time I leave something in my cart, but how? You know what I mean? Like, I know these things happen and I know the biggest companies in the world run promotions 3 days a week and send me, but how? Like, what's the how? And I'm like, everybody deserves the equal opportunity to get access to the secret. Like, you know what I mean? Like the sauce is there. And the thing is, it's like, you could have, oh my God. Like there are people who have much better candles than Bath & Body Works. Bath & Body Works just has great marketing.
Facts.
Like their candles aren't even that great. Lord, I hope I don't get, please don't, but you know what I mean? But it's like, you just don't know the marketing. You know what I mean? Like you have a better product, a better talent, a better skill, but it's like, nobody knows about it. And because you don't have strategy in place and you're stuck on this perfect mountain, and it's like, okay, I need to help people get unstuck. Like they deserve to get to be the bosses that they want to be, to have the companies they want to have, to operate the way they want. But the key to that is really getting unstuck. And that's Bossology.
Yeah.
It's a study of being a boss.
It's a study of being a boss. Is that the tagline?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because it's like, it's a subject, sociology, bossology, psychology. So it's the study of being a boss. And I am your instructor.
So does that make you a bossologist?
That makes me a bossologist. Listen, I am officially a bossologist. Like, yeah, I am... I love that. Yeah, I'm going to take that. That's now mine.
I really thought that, like, you were a bossologist.
I am now a bossologist. I have now been ordained.
Hey, you better coin that phrase.
Today's my ordination.
You better trademark that.
Yeah, like that's the thought. You know, it's a science to it. And it's a science to it. It's like when I study the successful people, and they all have like sciences. Like they're all like, I have a routine. Mm-hmm. I have a boundary with my teams. Like they have certain sciences to how they move. And I'm like, and it's consistent. Like all of them, their routines may not be the same, but all of them have routine. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's part of the science behind being a boss. Like all of them they create systems where where their businesses work while they sleep. That's the science behind being a boss. You know, it's not just happenstance. And I'm like, if everybody understood the strategy and the science behind where they want to go, they get there a lot quicker. So yeah, that's it.
So who is usually your target audience when it comes to these people?
Definitely women.
Okay.
Definitely women. Black women. Definitely look like me. We are one of the most marginalized. So even though we are one of the most educated groups in society, we still have the least amount of equity and least amount of opportunity. So if we were next to all of our counterparts, black males, white women, we still are the last ones to get the job, the loan, the business. So the thing is, I want to close that for us. You know what I mean? Like I want us to have the strategy and the opportunity and the knowledge that, you know, me and Devin went to school for business, which is my husband. Devin went to school for business, and he always talks about like, basically they don't teach you anything in college. You know what I mean? Like, it's just education. It's just schooling. It's not education. And I'm like, none of us know what we need to know to get to where the people that we watch are. So it's like, when I look at black women and I look at women that are just like me, I'm like, you can have it. You know what I mean? Like you deserve it. So yeah, that's the people that I serve.
Yeah. So what are things that you have struggled with along your journey to getting to like where you are at now?
I think the biggest struggle is like thinking that although I know the work that I do is amazing and that I am not good enough, that it is not worth what it is worth. And the thing is, it's like, how do I, package this in a way where you can benefit from this, and I'm closing a gap and I'm serving a need, but I'm also presenting it as valuable to the people who have it. And there's always like this fine line that you like teeter on, like, I want to help. I want to do what's passionate to me. I want to do what I love, but I also deserve to be paid for it. Mm-hmm. That's always the line for me that I live on. Another thing is that I'm fast. I will be like, look, we're gonna start this, so we're gonna run this, so we're gonna print 1,000. I designed a shirt and sent out over $1,500 of shirts with a misspelled word on it. And I'm like, slow down, because I have vigor, I have ambition, but there's some balance in there that I'm still working on.
Yeah, but it seemed like those missteps or errors have helped you, would you say? They
have, and I consider all things good things, and I think that's probably why I'm not a perfectionist, because I'm like, I gotta make some mistakes, I gotta fumble a couple things to really understand how to carry the ball. I tell people, like, look, you give me a seed, I'll give you a tree, but I gotta get some seeds, you know what I mean? And the thing is, you gotta put seeds in the ground. Yeah. So I take them as learning opportunities. I mean, they really have been. Life's a good teacher, like a real good teacher.
Facts. So I stepped away from social media typically every year. I step away from social media at the beginning of the year, from like January to February. And one day I broke that, and I saw that like you were doing a MasterClass or working towards doing a MasterClass. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I did a MasterClass with one of my friends, Morgan Taylor, about the Creator Suite. And it was basically just to put everybody in, like, hey, these are the things, this is your toolbox. This is what you need to get started. Because everybody's like stuck. So I'm like, what can I give you just to get started? Like, and I started coaching at the end of last year, and everybody that I brought into my coaching was not even ready for the coaching. And I'm like, dang, like that sucks. Because it's like I'm trying to teach you about like strategy, but you don't have the basic tools to get you to even this point. So it's like you don't have the foundational equity in this to even be able to do the strategy. So it's like I'm talking about like, okay, let's talk about your ad budget, and I'm just talking about your optimization, and you're like, I just want to put my name out there in my product, and I'm like, oh, and it's like, so we built that masterclass out. I mean, it was very great. It was well attended. I mean, it was great. It was really, it is not probably the mountain where I want to live, but I believe that the opportunity needed to be presented. So there are levels to this, and I tell people something like, sometimes you got to get some skin in the game. Like, you got to put in some work, so you can, build on this, because it is a build on. It is work, and the thing is, it's not easy. So the thing is, the more effort, and I believe in people investing in themselves. So when I think about like, hey, I'm going to take a master class, or I'm going to purchase a course, or I'm going to hire a coach, like, you're taking an investment in your business. For sure. And that's big. Yeah. Like that's when people are willing to put their credit card in, like that says something about you. Yeah. Like and it makes me look at you differently, and with a different level of serious. Like are you willing to put your card in and pay for this? And it's like, if you would pay $100, $200, $305, whatever amount, for sure. Like that was $100 you could have got gas. You know what I mean? Like that,
especially now.
Yeah, that probably got you like half a tank, maybe. But you know what I mean? Like, you paid for this, and that says a lot about you and how you look at your business. So that was really the purpose behind it, and it was great.
Yeah. So when you work with some of the people that you work with, well, some of the women that you work with, is it their businesses? Is it mostly digital businesses, or just like different kinds of businesses?
It is different kinds. I actually had a client this past fall that had a kitty litter business.
Really?
Yeah. And she was a Black woman, and she had developed like a really special kitty litter. And she wanted to work on the e-commerce side, but she also wanted to do brick and mortar. I have now, you learn, one thing about going through the cycle of this is you learn things about yourself, you learn things about your customer, things about people. That's why I'm like, just start. Because I learned like, okay, I like e-commerce. Like, I don't want to work with people who don't want to do e-commerce. Yeah. Because I need you to have a business that has a worldscape for it to make sense digitally. So, I vet people a little bit better now. Because like my first class, I just put the price out, and all the spots sold out, and I didn't vet anybody. And then they got into the class, and I'm like, you had money, but this is not probably the best fit for you.
Yeah.
And I've had to fire clients. Like that was my first season of doing that. Like this is not a good fit. Like, I'm not your coach. You're not my client. We're not good for each other. And that's a hard thing, but it's a lesson that I had to learn quickly. Like everybody's not your customer, and leave some money on the table. Like, some money ain't all money ain't for you, and it ain't all good. So it's like, I had to fire a client this year. Like all those things. So. Yeah, I don't even remember what the question is, Knoxx, but there's an answer.
Are they like
digital businesses?
Yeah, digital businesses
they're all
are
different.
like,
yeah, like there's different types of businesses in there. Like, I would say digital is probably like, I would say you need to have an e-commerce element. That would be my zone of genius. What I have done in corporate is scale e-commerce brands, and scale them very largely. And most of the people who know me, they know me from the corporate brands that I've worked with. So they're like, oh, can you bottle some of that up and give it back to us? And I'm like, absolutely, Bossology.
Bossology. Is that trademark?
It's not. And the thing is, I have about trademark stuff. It's like, Quita, I am, I come with all these little things, and I own like 100 domains. Oh. I'm one of those people.
Wow.
Yeah. At least 100. And I have like 100 Instagram accounts.
Just names that you just own.
Yeah, like I'm like, if it comes to me and I'm thinking like, God, like, okay, maybe you dropped this on me.
For sure.
Even if you maybe dropped this on me, let me go snatch up all the things. So okay, trademarking is expensive.
For sure.
So Devin's like, I need you to like make sure you're actually going to do this before you start. So and I actually tried to change the name from Bossology very recently. So
change it.
I don't know what I thought it wasn't corporate enough. Yeah, it's not, because we have all these connotations. Like, it's like, hi, my name is Shaquita, and I have a brand called Bossology. And I'm like, this isn't corporate enough. My name isn't corporate enough. This brand isn't corporate enough. It's like, but all the value and all the work is next level, but it's like all the connotations that like follow it, you know? So I'm like, maybe I need to. So yeah. And those are the things that I feel like as an entrepreneur, as a creative, that you constantly like grasp with and grapple with. But one thing I don't do is I don't get stuck. So it's like, if I don't have the answer right now, then that needs to sit on the shelf, and I need to keep moving forward, because I'm really big on not getting stuck. Like, I don't believe in like allowing anything to get me stuck, because I'm a person that moves forward. Like, I'm gonna keep moving.
Did you think the name wasn't corporate enough?
Yeah. Like,
I'm curious why you think that, because like if you look at like Twitter, Instagram, right, like Facebook, like those aren't necessarily corporate names.
Yeah, true. You know what I mean? True. It's like, what's a Fila? You know, what's
exactly.
a Nike?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, what is that? Where it's like, but it's our own insecurities that get loud in the room. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the thing that you're like, you know, like one of my early questions was like, yeah, like value, perception, like it's our own insecurity that like gets really loud. And it's like, who said that? Who told you that? Like, where do you even get that from? Like, nobody's thinking
that's
that.
something that you came up with yourself, right? Like, you thought that. Like,
yeah, nobody told me, like, you know, it was like somebody gave a narrative like, I didn't pay you because your name wasn't corporate enough. Nobody told me that.
For sure.
But my own fears about success and value as a Black woman, as a Black creative, I'm picking holes in my own thing that I built. And I'm like, maybe the name is gonna make people not want to pay me. You know what I mean? Like, things that I created, narratives that I created for my own brand.
Yeah. So how do you think you can overcome something like that?
Yeah, no, wow. Oh, the hard questions. I love that for me. It is a constant thing. I think my biggest thing is like, I try not to let anything slow me down. So if I feel like this decision has the opportunity to slow my momentum, to not invest in it, but I don't really know the answer. Like, I'm just gonna be really clear. Like, I don't know the answer to that. Like, how do we change the narrative when the narrative's loud? And it's the broad scape of being in the culture and watching, you know, like you said, you talk about you're not on TikTok. Well, let me tell you what you're missing. Black creators creating but not benefiting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you think about like anything, you want to pull out anything that could possibly lack you from benefiting. So like, I worked with a really big Black-owned business, and as we began to matriculate and grow, we had to figure out how to whiten the business up, because we thought that was going to be what hindered us. Because that's the narrative you hear, you know, like, hey, we got to get some more diversity in here, and we have to sell to some other people, some other customers. And we hadn't even evangelized every single woman in the country. So we definitely hadn't finished our work. Mm-hmm. So like, you know, it is a bigger cultural thing that we begin to poke holes in our own stuff. Like, we literally are in a boat, and the boat is doing okay. It's not a ship, but it's a boat. And we're literally like taking a knife and puncturing holes in our own bolts. So yeah, it's a work to be done. I don't have the answer to how, but it's definitely, I'm aware. I think awareness is the first thing. So I'm aware that like, you're kind of doing that to yourself, sis.
Yeah. For me not to be on TikTok, it's not that because I don't understand like the value that comes from like those particular platforms. I just think that like, I didn't want to be on the platform. I wanted to own the platform. Right. So like, when you speak about, you know, not going to like other people's table and building a table, I was like, yo, like, these platforms could go like at any time, and people are usually going to like different platform to platform and building like these audiences. But like, you have to think about the people who are behind those like platforms. They are the ones who are creating the technology where people are migrating to. And so I was like, yo, like if I can build the platform, if I can build the technology, then people would want to come over to this space instead of like me going to this space and trying to be like an influencer. Why not me be the person who creates that world? And so like that's just like my philosophy behind it. Like I don't want to personally be an influencer in a sense of like I'm only an influencer on this platform. I want to be like an influencer because I created the platform and I could create more like it. So like that's just like my philosophy behind it.
Yeah, because we're renters. Like when you think about it, like literally like you think about the difference between like being a renter and like owning your home.
Yeah.
And like at any time somebody could really tell
you could be
like,
homeless.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm selling the house in 30 days.
Exactly.
You're out.
Yeah.
Like these platforms have full control over business. Like if you build your entire business and brand on these platforms, they have full control at any, and I've seen it happen. It's the crazy thing. Like any moment, and the thing is, in a world where you want to have freedom to speak and say, you really don't. We know that for sure that you're renting space. Like you are literally like you're building it on a rock that's not a firm foundation. Like at any point, my name is not Shaquita Facebook. Your name is not Antonio Instagram. Yeah. Like we don't own these platforms.
No.
You know, and the thing is, granted, they can be used to our benefit
for sure. Leverage.
But it is not the place where you want to build, because they have full control over your creative. Mm-hmm. They have full control of what you put out and all the people that you built that follow you. So I have 50,000 people on Instagram that follow me. No, they have 50,000 people on Instagram that they allowed to follow you until they don't want to allow you anymore.
Exactly.
And that is a level of control that a lot of us should be less okay with. Mm-hmm. We're okay with it because it's the norm, but we should be less okay with that everything I built, somebody else really owns it.
Exactly. And you could lose it at any time.
At any time.
I think like when Instagram or like the whole Facebook ecosystem went down for like that whole day, and everybody was like, yo, like what are we going to do? And initially, like when I first came up with like this concept, I was like, man, I'm just going to create these videos and put it on like YouTube, Instagram and all of that. But then like when the shutdown happened, I was like, man, like this would be a perfect opportunity to teach myself how to code, to create this platform so I personally can control it.
Yeah. And
that's kind of like where we're heading. And, you know, like I said, I definitely see the value for like Instagram, TikTok, and one of the persons that I had on here was like, yo, like TikTok is like kind of like the wave. Like you said, like TikTok is overtaking like YouTube in like many ways. And so like I see the value, and I'm definitely going to utilize that. I'm going to leverage that to get more people onto like my platform. But like for me to be like just in that platform and that's it, I don't have anything behind that. Like that's just like not the wave.
Yeah, we call it like they call it owned revenue. So own revenue means you own the list, you own the people, you own the domain. So like people tell me like, do people still go to websites? I don't need a site. I'm like, well, it's the only digital landscape you kind of own. Mm-hmm. So, you know, like your list, like that's your digital landscape. Like those are the only like entities that you own. Yep. So the thing is like social media should literally be used as a micro commitment for a macro commitment for your brand. So like, hey, a small choice to follow me should really lead you. It should be a funnel. Like I am the funnel queen. Like I believe in a very healthy funnel.
For sure.
Like I'm going to take you through, you know, awareness all the way to conversion. So that's my big dog stuff. But you know what I mean? Like it is. And the minute we forget that, like that sucks, especially for creatives. Like that when we forget that part, like, hey, this is supposed to be a means to our own end, we have really missed a big opportunity. Like to shuffle people, because the thing is, Instagram just cares about who is the person on there that has people scrolling the longest. They care nothing about you or your content or any of those things. They only care about who's scrolling on there the longest. So companies like the ones that I work with on the corporate side are spending millions of dollars to show you ads.
Exactly.
That's all they care about.
Yeah.
So if at any time people are not scrolling the longest on your content, they don't care. And then you're like a slave to an algorithm. You know, oh my God, we're all like, I hate it. It's like, well, you better find a way to get around it. And it's usually not post more, post less, post 3, post 4, because you don't own anything on there, and it can change or migrate at any given moment. Like Facebook could come out tomorrow with an announcement. They're like, hey, everybody who has under 2,000 followers, we're now deleting your page. What are you going to do? Matter of fact, we're not doing 2, we're doing 10,000. Everybody that's under 10,000, you now only get to watch. You don't get to post. That's people's entire livelihood. That's people's entire body of work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and what could you do? What you going to do? Have a process?
Can't do nothing about
Nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I post my picture on Instagram, reused it on the creators page. They don't have to ask you. They own this platform. They own all this thing. And it's like, I think, and we think about a generation of people who are the children of a generation of people who never owned anything. We are creating the same thing in the digital space where we don't own our landscape.
Yeah. So what do you think is the solution to that? Should people start building like their own platforms, or what's the solution?
Well, number one, most of us are not going to build our own platforms. We're not going to be coding platforms. Knoxx. We don't have the ability to that. 2 things. You invest in platforms. You can invest. You should definitely, at any cost, you should be building things that you do own, though. Like you should, email list, text list, things where domain, email, website, like bare minimum things of traditional marketing we should all have. And the thing is, well, I hate to say even if you don't use them. That is also like, that makes my stomach hurt. So I don't want to say even if you don't use them. But the thing is, we should be always looking to traffic people off the site. It should always be an appetizer. Like everything you create really should just be an appetizer to get people to where you need them to go. Social media is a vehicle. And the thing is, especially, it's like this is the big thing on social media that like makes my head hurt. Like people create content. I'm like, but you didn't make any money. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, or you make pennies. It's like, we're missing it. You know what I mean? Like, we're missing it. Like, it should really be used as a means for conversion. So it's like, oh, you post this funny dance or you post this great thing and I had a reel the other day on social media that got like 500,000 views.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, that's great. Boom, boom.
But
that's
what?
it.
Yeah.
Right. Like that did nothing. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I didn't have systems set up in place that even also like it's like people always want to go viral, right? And it's like, are you even prepared or systematically ready for viral? Like, are you Chick-fil-A or are you Popeyes? Because Popeyes went viral. Yeah. And everybody wanted Popeyes, and they had no sustainability or no infrastructure to even support the virality.
They weren't ready.
But look at Chick-fil-A. Still standing. And by the time the chicken sandwich came back, nobody even cared.
It was kind of late by that point.
Yeah, it was like, you got a chicken sandwich. We don't care. We're at the one who had the system and the structure and longevity. So the thing is, like, play long game with your creative. Play long game with your marketing. Like, don't, like the easy win, the quick win. Oh, I'm going to do a random dance from this random. Like, it's, like, think really long game. Like, hey, how is this going to affect my business 5 years, 2 years, 1 year? What's the end goal? Like, true long game with your creative, long game with your marketing.
Yeah, something I've been thinking, how do you think people are going to view themselves or view the culture in 5 to 10 years from like all of the dances people have been creating, them recording themselves and stuff like that? How do you think people are going to look at people back in the future, looking back at now?
I mean, but you got to think, the generation to come, they're probably going to be worse than we are. You know what I mean? Like, I think about my kids, I mean... Like, I mean,
because the only reason I say that, because like we look at some of our pictures back in the day, I'm like, yo, why were we dressing like that?
Oh, yeah, like, no, there was like a reel that's like the one that was, it is the stupidest dance ever that everybody on social media did, and I'm like, girl, what are you doing that for? Get up, like, but it's funny. It is funny, but I mean, if they got a bag though, I ain't mad. Like, do your dance, sis. Like, if you got paid, but it's like. Sometimes I'm like, I've wrestled that, and it's like, everything isn't always about money. It's not. It really isn't. But the thing is, it's kind of like, man, like what a waste of time. what a waste of my time. Like, I could have used my time for so many more things than learning this dance.
For sure.
To post it. So, and the thing is, it's like, especially on TikTok, hear about and YouTube. Oh my God, like YouTube is the same way. Like the same cadences that we've seen in the corporate infrastructure about how Black people are paid in the corporate infrastructure, it's happening in the creative infrastructure of the social landscape as well. So it's like there's this large pay gap, whether that's from brands and businesses. So it's like I've worked on the marketing side. We bring an influencer in and we're paying them like pennies. And I know that we're going to run this ad and make a ton of money. You know what I mean? Like, and they don't know their worth. They don't know that they're the reason why that this brand, the only reason I can sell this piece of thing is because of you.
For sure.
But you don't know that.
100%,
You're just excited that you're here and it's like we jump at opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, without really understanding like value and worth. And it's like I've been on the other side of it where I know like the corporate side, like we don't care about your value. Anything is if you had asked, we would have paid you because we know it's gonna make us money.
Yeah.
But it's like that same plight that we've seen in the corporate white collar world for years for Black and brown people. The same thing's happening in the creative community, you know, in the digital space as well. Yeah. And it's like, it's almost like, wow, we are really, really duplicating that process in a really unhealthy way.
Yeah. Would you be comfortable speaking about the conversation we had?
Yeah. You have to ask a question though, so I can't.
Yeah. So like when it comes to money, you spoke about like Black people specifically not understanding like their value. How do you navigate those spaces when it comes to, you know, asking for money?
Yeah, I suck. No, it's hard. You know, it's hard because it's like you waited your whole life to get in the room and somebody lets you in the room. So you're like, I don't want to ask for too much money because then I think they won't let me in the room. And sometimes you think like opportunity don't pay the bills, neither do exposure.
Nah.
So
unless it's the Super Bowl.
Yeah. You know, but it's like I just example wise, like, you know, a company, I left one company, I was recruited into a company. Somebody literally called me on the phone and was like, hey, can you come work for us? We see what you do, we see where you work, we want you. And I was terrified to give them my number because I'm like, maybe they won't want me if I ask for too much money. And when I gave them my number, they like scoffed at me. They was like, okay, that's all? All right, sure. and they gave me like a couple thousand more than what I had. Well, let me give you a little.
Wow.
Let me give you like a little. They're like, you know what? We'll give you more. We'll give you an extra $5,000. And I'm like, and I instantly, and I sit in those rooms in a C-suite with being the only Black woman, the only person probably under 40, like, you know, 29-year-old Black woman. I think I don't belong there. So I'm like just grateful to be there. I'm like, man, like I'm not, am I good enough to be here? You know, because nobody else here looks like me. Yeah. So it's like, if I make too much noise, then they won't let me be in the room. So then I don't ask for what I'm worth, even though I know what I do is valuable. I know being a Black creative is valuable and the worth and the work, and I know what I bring to the table. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's kind of where Bossology, when I was like, hey, I don't need to sit at the table, because it's like, you know, it's like, but then it's like, you still kind of want it, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's like, you know, like, I don't need a seat at your table. I want to build a table. And the thing is, it's like, you feel like those are your only two choices sometimes. Either I'm going to build a table or I'm going to sit at a table and not be paid enough. Mm-hmm. And that sucks because you're scared to ask. You're scared for your value. You're scared they're going to say, okay, well, we'll think about it, or we're going to find somebody else. And one thing about like lowballing your prices, it sucks for the whole community. Yes. It kills the whole community. So like if we can get like this really smart, talented Black woman to come work for us and only make X amount of money, then the thing is, if another Black woman comes along and asks for more, it's like, haha, no, because we had her for that amount.
She already set the bar.
Yeah, she set the bar and she set it low for all of you all.
Super low for everybody.
And it's like, and you now you have to work as hard as I did and get paid as little as I do. And that sucks for the entire community. And it sucks for all the women who want to get in the room. So it's like, because I used to have this thing like, I don't want to be anybody's token Black woman in their corporate company. But I'm like, then, you know, I mature a little bit like, no, I belong there. But now I'm like, I'm there, but I'm not getting paid enough. And it's like, well, sis, she got in the room, but you're kind of messing it up for everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's one thing to be in a room, but it's also one thing to be in a room and to get what you're supposed to get.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard. And you're scared. And you also feel like an imposter. Like, you're like, I don't belong here. I'm not worth this amount of money. Like, And when people offer you money, you think like, especially if you haven't had it, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, I never thought anybody would pay me this much money. You know what I mean? It's like somebody would think of me, you know, like, because I didn't grow up, my parents didn't have money like that. You know, my family didn't have, I didn't grow up seeing people. So it's like, I made it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a marketing director. You know what I mean? I manage all these people and I do all these things and I'm managing this, you know, $1 million budget. Like, honestly, marketing directors should really be paid really commission based on their ROI. That is really the correct infrastructure for that. It's not the one, it doesn't exist. But I mean, if I make you $6 million, you need to pay me on a sliding scale percentage,
For sure.
you know, like salespeople.
For sure.
But that's not the infrastructure. And I'm like, who am I to even bring that up to somebody? You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way. And it's like, and if I bring that up, they're going to be like, get out. I think, anyway. They may not, you know, but I don't even get, I'm like, I don't want to be the martyr for the community. I just want to get paid.
You don't want to be the one to risk it all.
Yeah, like, dang, like, man, it's like, we have fear of being rejected. We have fear of, like, somebody saying, like, we're not good enough. And it's like, you know, I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you do it when the person says, like, no, I'm not paying that? Like, I don't see your value, you know, like, because it's the fear of that and not knowing how will I deal with that. Because if I was to pitch somebody and be like, hey, I think you should pay me this amount, let's say you don't take it. You know what I mean? It's like, well, then what do? Do I just never, then I probably would never ask for that amount again. I'm like, it really wasn't worth it.
Yeah, growing up, because I used to have like this fear of like speaking to women as like most guys do, like as being a frail young man, just not having the confidence to do that. My mother told me one day, she was like, you've heard no before. She was like, you've heard no before. So if you go up to a woman and you know you want to take her out and she says no, like that shouldn't like stop you, because you've heard it no. You've heard no. I've said no to you like many times. So like you don't want to tell yourself no before someone else tells you no. And even if they tell you no, just keep going forward. Don't stop. Like, and so I think like when it comes to like opportunities like this, when it comes to like asking for money, don't tell yourself no. I tell people all the time, like, say a number that you're afraid to say. Because like if you get it, you're gonna be like, yo, like that's going to shock you. But like if you stop yourself from saying that number, you're gonna lowball yourself every single time. And the first time, these people are gonna be like, yes, because you lowballed yourself.
Yeah.
And
that's I'm living
that happened in your case.
Yeah, they're like, I mean, literally, like he like laughed on the phone. He's like, oh, like that's all, because he's like, so what's your number? You know, that's what they always say. So what's your number? I'm like, da 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 da. He's like, oh, okay, and it was still like maybe $15,000 from where I came from.
For sure.
And it's like I didn't even see. Like, another thing is like a lot of times we're sought after and we don't even look at the value in that. Like somebody came to me and said like, hey, I want you to come work at my company. And I felt so special. Like, oh my God, somebody wants me to come work at their company, that I didn't even understand like what does that really mean? Yeah. And there are more like we're in these rooms younger. So there's also a maturity gap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm 29. You know what I mean? Like everybody else in there, like they're suit and tie old white men.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's like my colleagues, like they're like 66. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm like, how am I here? I don't want to have a gap. There is literally, my frontal lobe just finished developing. I'm only 29 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a gap in maturity, so I'm afraid there is a gap in being exposed. You know what I mean? Like my parents, my mother did not go to high school. You know what I mean? So to be here and somebody say, hey, I'll pay you this amount of money, it's like, yeah, I'll take that. Like, thanks. You know what I mean? Because it's still more than what I ever thought I'd get.
Yeah.
But it's still much less than what I deserve.
Yes, exactly. So if you know you have like children, what would you tell your daughters if they were in the same position as you in a couple years?
Yeah, number one, I would tell my daughters like, number one, if they had the talent that I had, number one, you don't even belong in that room. Like you do not. it is such a limiting thing to you. Like, not only should you be asked, like, that's the evidence of like building a table. You know what I mean? It's like you are now, it's like when someone like, I'm not going to wear nobody else's chain. It's like I'm now on the record label wearing somebody else's chain.
Rockefeller.
Right. Like I'm wearing somebody else's chain. I'm on the label. You know what I mean? And it's like you had enough skill and talent where you could have not only gave out chains, you could have built chains, you could have designed new chains, and all the accessories that go along with them. But the thing is, it's like, it's understanding that you have permission to want that. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't give ourselves permission to want that. A lot of times, generationally behind us, we did not get permission to want that. It's like, I have heard, you better have a stable job. You're a Black woman in America. Like, you better not. And it's like, I know. Like, it's like, I know, but I'm scared because of the narrative. You know what I mean? It's like, you got 3 kids and a house and a family. You guys need stable jobs. And I'm a creative married to a creative. Yeah. And we could probably just be freelancers, honestly. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, sure. we could just have, we could be entrepreneurs. Yeah. But it's the fear that your kid's going, so you're going to quit your job, your kid's going to be hungry? You know what I mean? Like, is that the risk that you're willing to take? And it's like, betting on yourself is not a risk. You know what I mean? It's like, but it's easy for me to tell my daughter that, or to tell the person that's watching that. Yeah. It is a lot harder to sit in that seat and say that about yourself. Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of like how people just don't take their own advice.
Pretty much.
Especially like when, specifically like relationships, like, girl, you do this, my mans do this, but like when it comes to you like, I don't know if I can do that.
It's like, no, girl, you need to quit that job. They don't deserve you. You know what I mean? It's like, but you still at your job, sis. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so I like minimal risk. Like, I'll take a risk, but it's still got to be like slightly safe. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if I would job shift. You know what I mean? I think, and another thing is, I was a freelancer for my first 5 years of being out of college, and I remember that struggle bus. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get back on there. You know what I mean? Like, so it's some work to do, but a lot of times it's your insecurities that are loud in the room. Yeah. And it's like silencing them, like making them like you need to chill out. You gotta be quiet. Yeah. That's the gap. That's internal work. That's bigger than like a marketing, a directive. That's bigger than like a lot of things. Like, that's sometimes internal work. Like, you gotta be like, yo, this is where the rubber meets the road for me. And it's like, I always tell them, I'm like, okay, now I'm turning 30. Wow. It's a big. It feels big, right?
Yeah.
It feels different. No, okay, whatever. Knoxx.
I mean, people was telling me like it would feel differently, but I guess that was just like their perspective of it.
You're a different person. For the rest of us, you're a very unique individual. For the rest of us, 30 feels big. And I feel like, okay, I had a decade of doing this. Like, I've been doing this for a while now. I'm in the game. It's like, what does the next season of this look like for me? Yeah. And it's like, okay, Quita, like, you are talented, and I'm starting to, the more, like, when you sit in a room and you sit next to the person that's mediocre who makes more money than you, because I probably make the least amount of money in that room, and I'm probably one of the most talented people in that room.
I mean, it's okay to say that you're the the most talented in that room.
No, I know. I literally, like, I am the most talented person in that room.
Thank you. Affirm that.
Yeah. I am the most talented person in that room, and literally know that these people in this room need me, but also not being comfortable enough to say, like, but they can replace me. You know what I mean? It's like, that sucks. You know what I mean? Like, so you like get in this, like, and I think that's where the generation is kind of at. We're like in this tussle between, like, I know I'm about it. Like, I'm it. I'm that girl, but it's like, am I just that girl in this sector? But when I go in their room, I'm really not, like, and that's a tussle, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's a lot of internal things that go with that too.
Yeah. I think if you don't have some already, you should write down affirmations that you should tell yourself that you should read every morning and every night. Because what will start to happen subconsciously, you'll start to like believe it, even if you don't believe it in the beginning, because it may feel uncomfortable to you to say these things. But like, I know for me personally, there are things I wanted to accomplish and the things that I believed myself to be, or I wanted myself to be. And I was like, man, like, I want to be in this space. I want to be this person. And I started to write like affirmations, and I would say them like every morning, every night, every morning, every night, every morning, every night, to the point that it just was, I feel like I became it. I became those things, and you know, I started to believe those things. And so like now it's to the point that I don't have to read them, and that I just like automatically just do what I said I was going to do. And so like, you know, maybe if you write yourself like affirmations down like daily, or just like read them daily. I think
it's like believing bigger.
Yeah.
Because it's like everybody was so like I came in here and I was like so nervous. I'm like, I'm scared. Like, and people will be shocked because they be like, you seem really like a confident person.
For sure.
And it is confident to a level.
Mm-hmm.
It's like for the next leg of the journey, like for the next level, like it's almost like going back and rewriting those affirmations.
Yeah.
Because there are certain things that I tell myself about myself, but it's like, it's time for you to like boss those up another level. It's like it's time for the Bossologist to go in there and like
Bossologist
to go in there and like boss it up a little bit, because it's kind of like there is the way I needed to affirm myself when I was 18 is different from 25, and it's also different from 30 at 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like to be Black in America, 29 years old. I have 3 kids. You know what I mean? I've been married almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like there are different, like, I mean, it's so many things that you think, like, I don't deserve this. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants me here. You know, it's like, so there's a different, like the main thing is, like, I definitely need an affirmation. It's like, but it's a different affirmation, like, that is going to be the fuel for the next season. Like, there is something else that where I aspired at 18, I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I hit the bar. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
18-year-old me will be very impressed with me. Like, you did a good job, girl. Like, you took care of yourself. Like, I love what you did with the place. But 40-year-old me would be disappointed if I stay where 30-year-old me is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what is the fuel for the next leg of the journey? What is the affirmation? What is the word that you speak over yourself to get you to the next place? Because I had a lot of goals the last 10 years. Like, getting pregnant in college, I'm like, oh yes, I want to graduate college. I want to do this. I want to be successful. I'm going to still have a great career. I have this big thing about, like, I want it all. I have the audacity to want it all. I'm going to have a great family and a great work life. I'm audacious in that way. So that was the affirmation for that season.
For sure.
So now I have it. You know what I mean? Like, I have great marriage, great family, great kids. I'm successful. But like, okay, Quita, next level. Yeah. You ready? You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
I personally never dated a creative. What is it like marrying one?
So, I mean, no, me and Deb have a big thing about 2 creatives being married. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It is amazing in the sense of you have another person that understands the weight of creativity, the weight of needing to get something outside of you and to, like, birth things. Like, creatives have wombs, even, you know, like we things are birthed inside of us.
Yeah.
So you have somebody who understands that weight of, like, I need to get a way to get this out of me to birth it out. So, like, that's a dope thing to have somebody else who understands that, or like understand the call, like, I can't watch TV because I have this in me that has to get out of me. So that has been a blessing, like, for us to, like, both be able to understand that tandem with each other. But creatives also have a different way of, I can't watch TV because I have to get this out.
For sure.
And 2 people like that can be a rough mix. Like, so, you know, it's like, there's great things about it. You have somebody who understands the walk that you have, but then sometimes you don't have the polarness of having a non-creative to say, you got to step away from this.
For sure.
Like, you got to take a break. You got to breathe this out. So, like, you can't die on this mountain. You got to come down off of it, man.
Facts. Okay, so what are you going to affirm for yourself within, like, the next several years?
Knoxx, we just came without getting an affirmation. Like, why I gotta come with that? Like, come on now. Okay.
Because I want you to use this as a catalyst for things that you may not believe right now, but that you want for yourself. And so maybe within like the next 5 to 10 years, you can look back at this and be like, yo, like I did this because, you know, I just turned 30 and I recorded something when I was 20, and the things that I said in the video I wanted to do, I'm in the process of doing, but also some of the things I've done. And so it's great to be able to have, you know, this content, this video, to be able to come back at and be like, yo, like I did that.
Yeah. Wow.
And you know, don't limit yourself. Like, just say.
Wow. Like, I would say that your work is worthy of being a household name brand. Your work, people will pay to hear your words. That there are groups of people waiting for the permission to say, Quita did it, so I'll do it. You have a special weight about you, and you will be okay and comfortable enough to say, yes, I am special. Yes, I am good enough. Yes, I belong here. Yes, I deserve this space. And I'm not cheap, you know, like I'm rich, like that's it.
That's fire. That's fire. So typically I like to end off the video, or the radio show with you leaving a word for people to take away with. It could be anything, whatever comes to your mind, whatever you think the people need to hear to take away with. What would it be?
I think the biggest thing is, wow. Yeah, I mean, I feel so full right now, even on myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting, but you belong in the room. And the thing is, and there is a room not only that you belong in, but that there's a room that you will create, that other people belong in. So I give you permission to be audacious in that way. Whatever you've been thinking about or sitting with, you get to accomplish your dreams. You have the permission to have everything you've ever wanted. And if everything you ever wanted is not enough, you get the permission to have even more. That's all.
Those are facts.
That's all.
Those are facts. Well, I want to thank you for taking some time, spending some time with me today, and everyone who viewed this. Thank you so much.
No,
for real. Thank you so much. Yeah. My name is Antonio Knoxx. That's Quita, and this was the Gradient Radio.